You're going to have some kind of digital currency at one point. So I'm not against crypto. Bitcoin itself has no intrinsic value. It's used heavily by sex traffickers, money launderers, ransomware. So I just don't feel great about Bitcoin. I applaud your ability to want to buy or sell it. Just like I think you have the right to smoke, but I don't think you should smoke.
Made in the USA, altcoins are still a pretty big deal. So really it's no surprise when JP Morgan, as we saw, was finally ready to come on chain. And it's also no surprise that they did this with 2 United States-based projects. But that being said, everyone, and I mean everyone, including myself, including us here at Altcoin Buzz, we tend to fall into the same trap. We follow and talk about the same few projects. So the typical ones being Ondo, SWI, Solana, XRP, Hedera. And we talk about them for good reasons. We love those projects, but consider this. There is $460 billion of value here in lots of great long-lasting projects. And today we're going to try to take a little bit of our own advice here. We're going to look at 4 great projects that are made in the United States, but are criminally underrated and certainly underhyped, underpublicized. And we've come to the conclusion after our research that that should not be the case, because these underrated projects are actually just as strong as the usual suspects. In some cases, we haven't even talked about these 4 altcoins on the channel, but we're going to try to make a change to that. We're looking at 4 underrated altcoins made in the USA projects that you really ought to take a look at. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie, and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest. I genuinely wish you well. Just remember that I'm not a financial or investment advisor, and that means by extension, this video is not official financial or investment advice. First of all, and to kick off here at number 1, we have one of the most American projects. And actually, it's a very New York project as well. We haven't talked about it in a little while. It is Avalanche, ticker AVAX. As a project, it's got a lot of features that we like. We like, for example, that it's not one chain, but actually 3. It means their C chain, which is part of EVM, is super fast and cheap. And we like that with the P chain, other projects, especially games, can come online with their own chain. So the effect is here that it ensures the fast transactions they need to keep their games moving, which is pretty key if that's your clientele. Right here, what we're seeing is a snapshot of their current subnets. It's actually a pretty extensive list, and really it's one of the best run chains that we have. That being said, it's down in the last year, in the last 12 months, about 30% or so, despite the fact that it's up on the day just below $22 as I record, but still down about 30% over the last year. That's despite all the growth metrics that ultimately matter at a fundamental level. So addresses, users, transactions, the really important stuff. It's very simple. We see this as a buying opportunity for one of the top projects out there. It's got an all-time high for reference of $144 and a recent-ish high of $54. Like I said, we're just below 22 as I record. It means there's a lot of room to grow and to run once people start remembering how good as a project Avalanche is. The main risk here, I would say, is the waiting time. How long, in other words, is it going to take for the market to remember the quality of this project? You may need some patience on this one, but ultimately, the way this is run is very impressive, and at least in theory, the cream always rises to the top. Certainly, Avalanche is among the top projects. Plain and simple. This is a quality argument. At number 2 on this list is the former MakerDAO, which is now known as Sky, and the DAI, D-A-I stablecoin has rebranded to USDS. For a few years now, DAI has been the number 3 largest and most important stablecoin. It is fully backed by collateral, and DAI started as a fully decentralized stable, but its extensive use of USDC as part of its collateral package means it's less decentralized now, admittedly. Despite its important standing in the hierarchy of stablecoins, people tend to overlook Sky. Maybe the rebrand had something to do with it. It's hard to say. I don't know. But as the Genius Act in the US gets closer to passing to create a legal framework for stablecoins in the United States, it makes all stablecoins more valuable at the end of the day. And that is especially so for the established ones that already have a built-in lead on the newcomers. So big names like Sky, like Circle, as they have with USDS and USDC. And while all the rebranding is going on, you can actually still buy the old MakerDAO with symbol MKR. That is up 5% on the day here. Its market cap sits at $1.2 billion. And unlike Circle or Tether, who, by the way, are totally private, this is the largest stablecoin issuer that you can buy to earn from their profits. And it is our point of view at Altcoin Buzz that the clearest two markets for product market fit in crypto are Bitcoin for long-term money and saving, and stablecoins for payments. And like I said, now with the Genius Act passing in the Senate, stablecoins are going to become an active, regulated part of the US payment system with much more clear guidance. Stablecoin growth is going to be a given as a result. Next up on our list here is Render, which is a leader in the very important area of artificial intelligence and computing power. Within that sector, of course, GPUs are absolutely vital for LLMs, large language models, to continue researching and answering queries from customers. And of course, all that searching and researching requires computing power, a lot of computing power. So does storage and maintenance of the entire model itself. They need computing power and, again, a lot of it. Render just had RenderCon in April, and this helped to cement their place as a leading GPU marketplace. This is one of those projects that I feel we ought to be talking about more. It seems to be doing all the right things. Why we don't talk about it more is kind of an unknown to me. I don't know. There's really just only one negative about the project here that I ought to point out. That is the tokenomics, because while over 95% of the total supply is in circulation, and that's good, by the way, it can have an unlimited max supply. Maybe that's a red flag for you. Maybe it's an important factor. Maybe not. Maybe it's the opposite, but I should point it out. But that being said, literally everything else about the project, from the sector that it occupies, AI, its operations, the team behind it, and everything else fundamentally is very solid. It's also a good time to buy Render, R-E-N-D-E-R. This used to be RNDR, by the way. They've rebranded in case you're tuning back in after a while. They migrated over to Solana now, and after an all-time high of $13.53 in March of last year, they're down quite a bit, all the way down to $4.56, up a couple percentage points on the day, but there's been no material difference whatsoever in terms of how the project operates or what they're trying to do. That's crypto, right? Quality projects, unfortunately, get dragged down with the rest of the market when there's a dip. So we see this as an excellent entry point for a high quality project in one of the top 3 growing sectors in the industry. It is back on our radar, and this represents a good entry. Last but not least here on our list of underrated made in the USA altcoins, we have one of the leading L2s in the form of Optimism. Of course, Optimism's tools make it easier than ever to build out an Ethereum layer 2. Both Binance and Coinbase built L2s using Optimism. The superchain is helping to drive Optimism forward as well. It's also a proxy for Base. Coinbase's L2 is built on Optimism and part of the superchain. But Base doesn't have its own token. It's easy to forget that, but yeah, that's the reality. We suspect that this is going to change to be in compliance with U.S. regulators, especially now that Coinbase is a member of the S&P 500. Congratulations to them, by the way, on that. But that being said, without its own token, the easiest way to bet on Base's growth, at least right now, is by buying Optimism. But despite all that positivity that I just outlined, Optimism has not had a very good year. If we look at the last 12 months here, we're talking down to the tune of 70%, a little bit more than 70% down, and certainly well off the all-time high, which occurred in March of 2024. As I record right now, we're just below 70 cents with a $1.158 billion market cap. For context, that March 2024 all-time high was $4.84. And again, just like with Avalanche and with Render, this is one that's fundamentally doing a lot of good work, but is not celebrated in the crypto space to the extent that it should be. And so this is another one that also may require a bit of patience. But things are coming together and going quite well for Optimism and superchain members like Base, which of course use it. So I feel if you are of the opinion, like I mentioned before, that Cream at least theoretically rises to the top, then by extension, it's only a matter of time before the market recognizes this one as well.